All right, everyone, welcome back. It's October 19th, and you know what that means? Time for another deep dive into the weird and wonderful world of hacker news.
Always guaranteed to be an interesting mix, that's for sure.
You said it. So first up, something I never thought I'd see trending on HNs. Crokinole. Anyone?
Crokinole.
Yeah, you know that like old school board game. Apparently, it's got everyone talking. Some of the comments are comparing it to chess in terms of strategy.
Huh, interesting. I can definitely see the appeal, especially for the technically minded. It's got that perfect blend of skill, strategy, and a little bit of luck.
Like debugging a complex program.
Haha, exactly.
Okay, but shifting gears a bit, there's an article making the rounds about a developer who's building a dungeon crawler game in Lisp.
Lisp. Wow, that takes me back. What's the developer's reasoning there?
Well, they dive into their use of entity component systems, or ECS, which, from what I gather, is a way of structuring your game code that's really efficient and flexible.
Ugh, ECS. It's a really interesting approach. Instead of having these big monolithic objects, you break everything down into entities, components, and systems.
Sounds like it could be useful beyond game development.
Absolutely. Anytime you're dealing with complex systems, ECS can be a real game changer.
And the comments seem to agree. Lots of praise for the elegance and power of Lisp and ECS. All right, get ready for this. Remember that article we saw about cats being liquid?
Oh, yeah, that one's a classic. Never fails to stir up some lively debate.
I mean, it sounds crazy on the surface, but then you see those pictures of cats contorting themselves into impossible positions.
The article made the case using rheology, which is basically the study of how matter flows and deforms. It argued that cats, with their incredible flexibility, kind of blur the lines between liquids and solids.
Yeah, and the comment section is a gold mine. You've got people passionately arguing both sides, complete with photographic evidence.
It's a good reminder to always be thinking critically, even when it comes to something as seemingly lighthearted as whether cats are liquid.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on from the feline world, we've got a couple of quick hits from the tech giants. First up, Amazon has finally done it. They've released a color Kindle.
A color Kindle? About time. I wonder how the display technology has evolved to make that happen.
Well, the response on HN has been kind of mixed, to be honest.
How so?
Some people are excited about the potential for more vibrant comics and graphic novels, but others are like, do we really need a color Kindle? Isn't the whole point of an e-reader to mimic the experience of reading on paper?
Yeah, I can see that. It'll be interesting to see if it really takes off.
Yeah, if this is the innovation e-reader folks have been waiting for.
Right.
Speaking of innovation, or maybe the lack thereof, there's a concerning thread about Cloudflare potentially blocking RSS users that's causing a bit of an uproar.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. RSS has always been kind of the wild west of content consumption. You get to curate your own experience, free from the algorithms.
Exactly. So to hear that Cloudflare might be intentionally blocking access to websites using RSS, it's a little worrying.
Especially given their recent move to charge for automated data access, which is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, that sparked a heated debate about data ownership. Like, who gets to profit from all this data flying around the internet?
Really complex issue with no easy answers, but it feels like there's this tension between the open web where information wants to be free and this increasingly monetized internet.
It's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, on a lighter note, let's talk about Adobe for a sec. They've just released a tool that has the entire design world buzzing. I'm talking jaws on the floor, mind-blown kind of buzzing.
Oh, what did they come up with?
Imagine being able to take a 2D drawing, and I'm talking like a simple line drawing, and rotate it in 3D space.
Wait, what? Like as if it were a 3D model?
Yep, that's exactly what this new tool does, and it's powered by AI.
Right, sure, right? That is wild. How does it even work?
Basically, it analyzes your artwork, figures out the missing dimensions, and lets you rotate it as if you had built the actual 3D model.
That's incredible. It has to be insanely complex under the hood.
Yeah, AI doing its magic, I guess. Anyway, the implications for designers are huge, right? I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Product mock-ups, architectural visualizations, animations.
No kidding. The possibilities are pretty much endless.
The comments are going wild, calling it magic, revolutionary, even the future of design.
It's not every day something comes along that really shakes up the industry like that.
Totally. Okay, shifting gears a bit, there's a really interesting AMA on HN right now with Peter Roberts,
Peter Roberts, the immigration attorney.
the one and only. Apparently, he specializes in working with Y Combinator startups,
Ah, so he must have some great insights into the challenges tech companies face with immigration.
for sure. And the questions in the AMA definitely reflect that, especially when it comes to getting visas for highly skilled workers.
It's always been a bit of a pain point, right? The tech industry thrives on global talent.
Absolutely. And Roberts doesn't sugarcoat anything. He's very real about how complex the system is and how it could be way more streamlined, especially for in-demand tech skills.
Which is ironic considering the tech industry pretty much drives the global economy these days.
It's true. All right, so from immigration to, well, programming languages,
Hmm.
there's a post that caught my eye about Prolog,
Prolog. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
right? I know it's a logic programming language, but beyond that,
Well, it's known for handling complex relationships, logical deductions, that sort of thing.
mm,
Not exactly the most glamorous language.
but apparently it's making a comeback. And get this, in the world of large language models,
LLMs. What do those have to do with Prolog?
it's actually pretty cool. You know how LLMs are amazing at generating human-quality text?
Yeah,
Well, they still struggle with things like logic and problem solving.
makes sense. They're mostly trained on text after all.
Right. So people are using Prolog to boost LLM's reasoning abilities.
Interesting. So it's like Prolog is lending its logical brain power to LLMs.
Exactly. The article I saw gives some really interesting examples, like one developer used it to help an LLM solve complex logic puzzles.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's a
Well,
good reminder that sometimes the old ways are still relevant.
for sure. Speaking of old but gold, Inkscape just released a major update.
Really?
Version 1.4, I think it is.
Inkscape. I love Inkscape.
Me too. It's such a great tool for designers and illustrators,
Hmm.
especially for those who, maybe can't shell out for the Adobe suite.
Definitely. Open source software for the win. What's new in this version?
Well, they've given the interface a nice little facelift, made it more user-friendly. Plus, there's some cool new features.
Like what?
Mesh gradients, for one,
Mm.
and improved path effects. Plus, the usual bug fixes, of course.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. The Inkscape team always does great work.
Yeah, the community seems really happy with this update. Lots of positive comments on each end.
It's great to see that kind of support for an open source project. It's proof that collaboration and community-driven development can really make a difference.
Absolutely. But speaking of making a difference, let's circle back to something we talked about earlier. Platform control. Remember that whole thing about Cloudflare potentially blocking RSS users? Well, it looks like they're not alone. There's a larger trend here of platforms trying to, reel users back into their own ecosystems.
Mm.
And folks on HN are definitely taking notice.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning. RSS was all about giving users control over their content, right? No algorithms, no walled gardens, just pure, unadulterated information.
Exactly. And now it feels like we're taking a step backward, trying to push people back into these spaces where they're bombarded with ads and their data is treated as a commodity.
And it all gets a bit murky when you bring in things like Cloudflare charging for automated data access.
It's a tough one for sure. On the one hand, you can see the argument about combating bots and spam, but it often feels like the average user ends up bearing the brunt of these restrictions, not to mention the whole debate about who actually owns data in this day and age.
No easy answers there. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom in the world of HN. Remember that thread about Prolog and LLMs? It's exciting to see how some of these older ideas are finding new life in the age of AI.
Seriously. It's like giving these language models a crash course of logic, teaching them to reason and deduce like a pro. Who knows what kind of crazy applications we'll see down the road?
I'm definitely keeping an eye on that space. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the wild world of hacker news for today.
Time flies when you're neck deep in code and controversy, right?
Tell me about it. Until next time.
Hack the planet.